What does faith look like? A prayer, a candle, a song, or a mirror full of makeup? In the town of Arenwa, people found a church that worshipped beauty more than God, and one day that beauty asked for a price that nobody was ready to pay. Pause. 2 seconds. This is the story of the Shine House. The church that didn't look like a church, and the day truth finally spoke. They called it the Shine House, not because it was holy, but because everyone inside looked like they were walking on a runway. At the edge of Urenwa town, it stood quietly, outside just another building, but inside, it felt like a music video. Neon lights, loud drums, perfumes mixing in the air. The rules were clear. No long gowns, no flat shoes, no headscarves, only bright lipstick, body-fitted dresses, and heels that could make angels turn their heads. And the youth, they loved it. Every Sunday looked like a wedding. Girls took selfies at the entrance. Men came, not for sermons, but for the view. Pause. They didn't call the leader pastor. They called him Sir Ezra, the prophet of style. His message was simple. Why hide beauty if God created it? People started changing. Clothes changed. Speech changed. Even their definition of faith changed. But one day, a woman arrived at the gate in a modest dress. And that was the first crack in the Shine House. Before he was Sir Ezra, his name was Samuel, a quiet preacher, a gentle voice, a man who believed that holiness didn't need a spotlight. He prayed more than he spoke, he helped without cameras, and he believed that truth never needed makeup. In his church, there were no lights, no luxury, only sincerity. His presence was calm, like soft wind after heavy rain. People respected him, but few listened to him, because the world often hears the loudest voices, not the truest ones. And life is not always kind to the gentle. Samuel faced his test, not through storms, but through a smile. Her name was Lydia, not evil, just dangerous. Dangerous like perfume, sweet but overpowering. She spoke with confidence, walked with grace, and questioned everything. Is beauty not also a gift from God? She asked. Why should worship be boring? Why hide what God created to be seen? She was elegant, charming, and slowly, Samuel began to feel alone in his own church. She wanted excitement. He wanted truth. She wanted applause. He wanted peace. Samuel kept his distance, but rejection can turn kindness into bitterness. Soon, Lydia began to speak about Samuel behind closed doors. Her words were like seeds, small but powerful. She said he judged her. She said he feared women's confidence. She said he was not honest. None of it was true. But rumors travel faster than truth. And one day, a single lie was spoken out loud. A false accusation. No trial. No chance to defend himself. The same people who once prayed with him turned away. They didn't ask for proof. They didn't seek truth. They just wanted a reason to move on. Samuel was thrown out, humiliated, abandoned, destroyed. The old church closed its doors to him. He walked away quietly, with nothing but his faith, but broken faith makes a dangerous heart. That night on a lonely road, as the wind grew cold and his spirit felt empty, a man appeared, not a friend, not a stranger, something in between. He wore a black suit, too perfect, too smooth, like shadows stitched into fabric. His voice was soft, yet commanded attention. He said, "You have been judged without justice. You were loyal to truth, and truth abandoned you. Start your own church, but this time, do not follow rules. Follow desire, and you will rise higher than ever before. Samuel hesitated. The man's presence felt wrong, but his words felt right. So Samuel asked, "What do I owe you in return?" The man smiled slowly, his eyes glowing faint red. "Only one rule," he said. "Let beauty feed your altar." Silence fell on the road. The air felt heavy. The night felt darker. That night, Samuel died within, and Sir Ezra was born. The shine house grew like fire, a small spark at first, but soon it spread across Urenwa town like it had been waiting for years. Cameras everywhere, fashion everywhere, faith harder and harder to find. The town began to change. Girls started dressing differently. Not for weddings, not for birthdays, not even for themselves. They dressed differently. For church. Boys competed just to sit in the front row, not to hear the sermon, but to be seen hearing it. Church wasn't a service anymore. It was a stage, a performance, a place to show how confident you looked, even if your heart felt empty. Shopkeepers started selling beauty products right outside the church gates. Makeup stands were always full. Hair salons stayed open late, on Saturdays. Every mirror became an altar. Every camera became a judge. Something was changing. Slowly, silently, but dangerously. And then, it began. A girl joined the choir. She never came home. People asked questions. But the answers came too quickly. She traveled. She found work elsewhere. She's fine. She's just busy. But no one heard from her again. Weeks passed. Another girl disappeared once again. They had an explanation ready. She moved to another town. She got a scholarship. She's safe. Don't worry. But this time, the town felt fear. The elders began to whisper. Mothers held their daughters closer. People looked at the shine house, with a question in their eyes. Yet still, every Sunday, the gates stayed full. The lights stayed bright. The music stayed loud. Because denying truth is always easier than facing it. And then, the third girl vanished. Not quietly, not secretly, but suddenly, unexpectedly. A normal Sunday, a normal choir rehearsal. And then, nothing. Her name was Sade. She was young kind, full of promise, the kind of girl people remembered, with a smile. This time, when people asked where she went, there was no answer. No story prepared, just silence. A heavy silence. A silence that felt like pain. People were scared. But fear is a strange thing. It can make people cautious, or it can make them blind. Some defended the shine house. They said, if something was wrong, wouldn't the police act? If something bad happened, wouldn't the pastor explain? But there was no pastor. Just Sir Ezra. Just compliments, just charm, just style, and truth. Waiting outside, with nowhere to enter. But one person refused to stay silent. Her brother. His name was Dio. He was not easily convinced. He didn't trust easy answers. He didn't accept silence. And most of all, he did not believe his sister would ever leave without saying goodbye. Dio was not rich. He was not powerful. But when he searched for truth, something inside him became stronger than fear. He spent days walking across Urenwa town from shop to shop, from street to street, asking one question: have you seen my sister? People said no. People said sorry. People said, pray for her. But prayers without action turn hope into helplessness. Then, one night, Dio looked through her phone and found something, a photo. Not of her face, but of her entering the shine house. It was blurry, but it was real. She was wearing a white dress, looking down, walking through the gate with the choir members. That was the last time anyone saw her. Dio stared at the photo. Not once, not twice, but 100 times. He stared, looking for answers, and then he decided to zoom in. What he saw next froze his heart behind his sister. In the frame stood someone, a figure, a shadow, wearing all black, no face visible, no expression, only eyes. Eyes that glowed. Faint red Dio sat still. The world around him felt quiet, too quiet. He checked again and again, zooming further, trying to find a shape, a clue, a face, but all he saw were those glowing red eyes. He thought it was a trick of the light, a camera glitch, a mistake. But as he zoomed in more, he saw something else. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. The figure was not just looking at his sister, it was following her, moving behind her, as though it knew exactly where she was going. Dio's heartbeat slowed, then quickened. Fear began to rise, but another feeling rose too. Anger. He printed the photo and took it to the authorities. What he received in return was disappointment. They listened. Briefly, they nodded. Barely. And then they said, "There's no evidence of a crime. Maybe she left willingly." Left willingly? After leaving her clothes behind, her money behind, her family behind? It made no sense, but they told him to go home, to wait, to be patient, to pray, and Dio realized that silence was the easiest way to let darkness grow. So he didn't wait. He didn't pray, he prepared. One night, when the town was sleeping, he put on dark clothes and walked toward the shine house. Not through the gate, not openly but quietly, carefully, like truth does when it tries to enter places where it's unwelcome. That night, Dio climbed the church wall. The sky was silent, too silent. Not even crickets sang. No wind in the trees, no distant music from the town. Just the heavy sound of his own breathing and the pounding of his heart. He gripped the rough brick with shaking hands, pulling himself up slowly, careful not to make a sound. Below him, the shine house slept, or at least, that's what it wanted the town to think. At the top of the wall, Dio paused. He crouched low, eyes scanning the church compound. The big lights were off. The stage in front of the main hall was empty. No music, no laughter, no cameras. But somewhere inside that building, he knew he could feel it. Something was awake. He dropped silently to the other side, knees bending to absorb the fall. He stayed low, moving along the shadows, hugging the wall like a secret the night was trying to protect. He remembered Sadie's smile, her voice, her laughter in the house, how she used to sing while washing dishes, how she said, "Just wait, Dio. One day I'll sing on the big stage." He swallowed hard. That big stage had swallowed her instead. He moved carefully around the back of the building where the cameras didn't reach. The grass was long and damp, wetting his trousers. Every step felt like a decision he could never undo. Then, through a crack in the window, he saw it. A flicker of red. He edged closer. Just enough to see inside, just enough to know. A secret room. Not the main hall. Not the stage. A hidden place. Red candles glowed along the walls, their flames small but fierce, casting shadows that seemed to dance even when nothing moved. Pictures of missing girls hung on the wall, carefully pinned, carefully arranged, as if someone had been staring at them for a very long time. Amaka, Tolani, joy, and others. Faces the town was trying to forget because remembering hurt too much. Dio's hand tightened around the window frame. His throat felt dry. Then he saw him, Sir Ezra, standing in front of a tall mirror, in his white suit, perfectly ironed, as if even the night was a stage meant for his entrance. But this was no sermon, no Sunday performance, no fashion moment. He stood too still, his head slightly bowed, his eyes half closed. He was whispering a prayer that felt wrong. The words were soft, smooth, but heavy. Let their beauty become my strength. Let their glow become my power. His voice slid across the room like oil greasy, unclean. In front of him sat a bowl, black on the outside, shiny on the inside, filled with something dark and thick. Dio couldn't tell what it was. He didn't want to know, but his body knew. His stomach twisted, his skin crawled, every part of him wanted to run, but another part refused. He took out his phone, hands trembling, breath uneven. He lifted it slowly and pressed the record button. The small red dot appeared on the screen. He filmed everything. Sir Ezra's hands, raised slightly, the candles, burning low, the photos, watching silently from the walls. Dio tried to steady his breathing so it wouldn't shake the video. Inside the room, Sir Ezra continued, let their shine become my protection. Let their faces open every door. Let their youth pay for my name. Dio's chest tightened. He felt anger rising, fighting the fear inside him. This was not a misunderstanding, not an accident, not gossip. This was deliberate. Suddenly, Sir Ezra lifted his head to bow. His eyes opened. He stared into the mirror, not at himself, not at the room, into the glass, as if something or someone was staring back. Dio narrowed his eyes, trying to see more clearly, and then he saw it. The reflection. Sir Ezra's reflection smiled, but Sir Ezra did not. His lips remained straight, his face remained calm, but in the mirror, his mouth stretched into a wide, unnatural grin. For a moment, Dio forgot to breathe. The reflection's eyes gleamed faint red, the same color he had seen in the photo behind his sister. Slowly, the reflection's head turned. Not the real Sir Ezra, just the image, just the thing inside the glass. It turned toward the window, toward Dio. Dio's entire body froze. He felt suddenly exposed, naked, as if the mirror had dragged his soul into its sight. His finger slipped, and his phone gently tapped the window frame. The sound was small, too small for a human ear in normal moments. But nothing about this moment was normal. Sir Ezra's eyes snapped away from the mirror. He turned, fast, his gaze locked on the window. Dio dropped low, back pressed against the wall, heart slamming in his chest. He heard the candles flicker, as if the air itself had been disturbed. Footsteps, slow at first, then sharper, coming closer. Dio held his breath. For a second, he thought maybe he had imagined it. Then Sir Ezra's voice cut through the silence. "Who's there?" The shout slammed into the night, strong, loud, angry. Dio's body reacted before his mind did. He ran, not carefully now, not quietly, just ran across the grass, along the wall. His feet pounded the earth, his lungs burned. Behind him he heard movement. A door slamming open, voices, footsteps, the sudden bark of a guard's order. "Check the back!" He didn't look back. Looking back would slow him down. He aimed for the corner of the wall, the same one he had climbed only minutes before. His hands grabbed the rough brick. He pulled himself up, foot slipping once, knee scraping the wall. A flashlight beam sliced through the dark behind him. There! Someone's there! He didn't wait to know who had seen him. He reached the top of the wall, threw himself over, and hit the ground hard on the other side. For a second, the world went white. Pain shot up his arm. He bit his lip to stop himself from crying out, but he didn't stop. He rolled, pushed himself up, and ran into the darkness. Fast pace, short breaths, rushed thoughts. Branches brushed his arms, stones bit into his feet. Every noise felt too loud. Behind him, the Shine House glowed faintly, small in the distance, but not small enough to be forgotten. Only when he reached the road did he stop running. He bent forward, hands on his knees, dragging air into his lungs. His phone, it was still in his hand. He lifted it. The recording was still on, shaky, blurry, but real. He stopped the video, saved it, and held the phone to his chest as if holding his sister's hand. That night, sleep did not visit Dio. He sat in his small room, lights off, phone screen glowing in the darkness. He watched the video again. The red candles, the mirror, the bowl, the photos of the girls, Sir Ezra's white suit, his voice, his words, and the reflection. Smiling when he did not. Each replay made the truth louder. This was no longer about rumors, no longer about suspicion. This was evidence. The next morning, the town woke up slowly, like it always did. But for Dio, nothing about that morning felt normal. He walked into the police station with the phone in his hand, his steps steady, his eyes clear. The officers looked at him with tired eyes. Missing person cases had become too common, too familiar, too easy to ignore. But when they watched the video, no one spoke. The room grew quiet, uncomfortably quiet. The commanding officer replayed the part where Sir Ezra stood before the mirror. He replayed the bowl, the pictures on the wall. His face darkened. "This could be fake," one officer muttered weakly. "Then let's go and see," the commander replied, voice flat, "today." By morning, the police arrived, not just one car, several, trucks, uniforms, weapons, tape. The Shine House for the first time did not look so powerful. Neighbors peeked from their windows, shopkeepers came out to watch, whispers moved through the air like wind through tall grass. What's happening? Why are they at the Shine House? Did something happen to Sir Ezra? Some of Sir Ezra's followers stood near the gate, confused, angry. "You can't just come in," one young man shouted. "This is a house of God." The commander stepped forward. "Then God will not mind if we look inside." They pushed through the gates. The main hall looked normal. Frames on the walls, lights, chairs, speakers, mirrors for dancers. Everything the town had already seen. But Dio knew better, he pointed. "There, behind the altar. That's where I heard him. That's where I saw the room." The officers exchanged glances. One of them moved to the altar wall, running his hand along the surface. It sounded solid, strong. "Bring tools," the commander said. "Hammers, bars, axes." The first hit echoed through the Shine House, a loud metallic thud against something that claimed to be holy. Followers began to shout. Some cried, some prayed loudly, asking God to protect the man of God. Sir Ezra appeared at the doorway, not in his white suit, in a pale shirt, trousers, a scarf around his neck. He looked calm. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked. His voice was smooth, control still clinging to every syllable. "This is a violation, a spiritual attack, an insult." The commander turned to him. "We just want to see what's behind your altar, Sir Ezra. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear." Sir Ezra smiled faintly. "You are breaking sacred things," he said. "You are offending heaven itself." Then let heaven defend itself, the commander replied, and let the wall answer for you. The hammer struck again and again. Cracks began to appear, fine at first, barely visible, then wider. The sound changed. The wall did not sound solid anymore. One more hit, and the plaster gave way. Behind it, wood. Behind the wood, a dark opening, a secret path, narrow, hidden, descending underground. The Shine House exhaled a breath of stale, trapped air. A smell came out, old, wet, mixed with something metallic, something that made the officers cover their noses. Torchlights flashed into the hole. The steps going down were steep. The ground below was stone. "I'll go first," one officer said. "No," the commander replied. "We go together." They descended. Dio followed. His heart raced, but his feet did not stop. He needed to know. He needed to see. The underground path was cold. The walls were rough. Drops of water fell from the ceiling in slow, steady taps. Far inside, they heard something, a sound, not loud, not sharp, a weak breathing, a faint cough. The torchlights moved faster. When they turned the final corner, they found them. Amaka, Talani, Joy, and others, lying on thin mattresses, bound in chains that held their ankles, eyes sunken, skin pale, bodies fragile, but alive. For a moment, no one moved. Then everything happened at once. "Get the medics! Bring bolt cutters! Call for stretchers!" Voices rose. Orders flew. One of the girls squinted at the lights. Her lips cracked when she tried to speak. "Is it morning?" she whispered. Dio's vision blurred. His eyes filled with tears. He saw Saad sitting against the wall, too weak to stand. Her hair tangled, her clothes dirty, her eyes were still the same. They widened when they saw him. "Dio?" Her voice was a broken echo. He knelt beside her. He wanted to hug her, but the chains stopped them. "I'm here," he said softly. "I'm here. I found you. You're going home." Her eyes filled with tears, not of fear, of relief. She laughed once, a dry, painful sound. "I told you," she whispered. "One day, I'll sing on a big stage." His chest tightened. "This isn't the stage," he said, "and you're not staying here." The officers cut the chains. Some carefully lifted the girls. Some supported their backs. Some carried them like children. As they emerged from the underground passage, the light outside felt too bright. The crowd at the gate gasped. Mothers screamed. Some fainted. Some ran forward, kneeling on the ground, calling out names. "Amaka! Tolani! Joy!" Hands reached out, trembling, afraid to touch, afraid they might disappear again. The truth had come out of the darkness and stepped into the sun. Sir Ezra stood there, surrounded by officers, handcuffs waiting. His white suit was covered in dust and dirt. His hair was no longer perfect. His eyes, for the first time, looked human, not powerful, not shining, just tired. He watched the girls being carried out. His face trembled slightly. His jaw clenched. The followers who once shouted his name now looked at him with confusion, with betrayal, with horror. "Is it true?" someone shouted. "Sir Ezra, say something!" "Tell them it's a lie," another cried. "Tell them this is a setup." But he didn't answer. The commander stepped closer. "Sir Ezra," he said, "you are under arrest for abduction, for unlawful confinement, and for whatever else we will find." An officer tightened the cuffs around his wrists. The metal clicked like a door closing. Sir Ezra looked at Dio. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The crowd, the noise, the sirens, the crying, just the two of them, the brother and the man who had taken his sister. In Sir Ezra's eyes was something strange, not pride, not anger, regret. He whispered, first to himself, then louder, just enough for those near him to hear. They promised me greatness. His voice cracked. There was nothing polished about it now. No charm, no performance. I only wanted my name back. Dio stared at him. The memory of the man in black on the lonely road. The offer. The deal. The mirror. The bowl. All for a name. All for shine. All at the cost of innocent lives. Sir Ezra looked at the ground. The mask had fallen. Whatever he had become for the Shine House had started with Samuel's pain. And now, both Samuel and Sir Ezra were gone. All that remained was a broken man in handcuffs and a town finally forced to look at the truth. The police led him to the van. The crowd parted, silent now. No applause, no camera flashes, only eyes, watching, judging, remembering. As the van door closed, Dio turned back to the girls being taken to the ambulance. He walked beside Sade as they lifted her onto a stretcher. She reached out weakly, fingers brushing his wrist. "Don't let them ever forget," she whispered. He nodded. "I won't," he said. "Because some stories are not meant to entertain. Some stories are meant to warn, and this was one of them." The sun rose slowly over Urenwa town, but it did not rise the same way. The Shine House was quiet, no music, no cameras. The gates were shut, and for the first time in a long time, there were no footsteps trying to enter. The town gathered outside, not to take pictures, not to record videos, but simply to look, to see what had remained after the lights were finally turned off. Some came with anger, some came with tears, but most came with silence. Because silence is what remains after noise dies. The girls who were found underground were taken to the hospital. Some could walk, some could not, but all of them had eyes that carried memories they would never speak of. Sade stayed the longest. She would lie on the bed, staring at the ceiling, sometimes smiling, sometimes shaking. Dio visited every day. He sat beside her. He didn't force her to talk. He didn't ask questions. He just stayed. And sometimes, that is the holiest thing one human can do for another. The town leaders met to discuss what would happen to the Shine House. Some wanted it destroyed. Some wanted it turned into a memorial. Some even suggested turning it back into a church. But the building itself felt heavy, as though the walls remembered too much. Soon, the church sign was taken down. The words, "The Shine House," were gone forever. The sun washed the wall with light, but the paint remained dull. As though the building itself had lost the will to shine. A week later, someone returned quietly. A woman. The one who had walked through the gate in a modest dress. The one who had seemed out of place, yet somehow more real than anyone else. She stood in front of the bare wall, took out a small paintbrush, and wrote a sentence in dark letters. No colors, no decoration, just truth. Not all shine is holy. People passing by would stop and read it. Some would nod slowly. Some would whisper a prayer. Some would simply close their eyes and walk away. But no one erased it. Dio stood before it one evening, hands in his pockets, watching the words as the sun faded behind the hills. He felt the wind for the first time in what felt like months. Then he heard footsteps. Sade came slowly, walking without help for the first time since she had been rescued. She stopped beside him. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, she said softly, "I thought this place would take my voice away forever." Dio looked at her. "You got it back." She nodded. "I did, but some people never will." She reached out and took his hand gently. Make sure this story is not forgotten. And he knew. He would. Because the world does not fall apart because of evil men. It falls apart when good people decide to ignore them. In the weeks that followed, many left Urenwa town. Some out of fear. Some out of shame. Some because they could not bear to see the truth that had once been hidden in plain sight. But some stayed. They cleaned the streets. They helped the rescued girls recover. They repaired the homes that had suffered. They learned that faith is not a building. It is not a fashion. It is not a trend. Faith, they realized, is what you hold on to when no one is watching. One of the rescued girls, Talani, began singing again. Not on a stage. Not for applause. But in the quiet corners of her home. Slow songs. Gentle songs. As if giving her soul permission to speak once more. Joy began painting. She would sit by the riverbank with brushes and colors, painting not what she saw, but what she felt. Her drawings were dark sometimes, light other times, but always real. Amaka started visiting schools. She talked to younger girls. She told them, "Your worth is not measured by how many people look at you." Some listened, some laughed, but she kept going. Because sometimes, truth takes time to grow. And as for the Shine House, it remained empty. No one bought it, no one claimed it. It simply stood there, quietly. A reminder that not every glow comes from the sun. Sometimes, darkness glows too. Sometimes, evil hides in the brightest places. Sometimes, the ones who tell us to shine only want to feed on the light within us. And so, Urenwa town learned something that many places never discover. They learned that holiness does not always stand on stages. Sometimes, it stands in hospitals. Sometimes, it sits beside broken hearts. Sometimes, it walks slowly beside someone who has forgotten how to hope. Because light, true light, does not demand your attention. It simply shines so that others can find their way. Moral of the story: not all shine is holy. Some lights are meant to guide. Other lights are meant to blind. Honor the quiet ones. Protect the gentle hearts. Because sometimes the purest souls are the ones the world tries to silence. And if one day your path feels dark, remember this: the brightest truth does not come from mirrors, but from within.